The project that we're going to be making tonight is a 3D project, so it's not a card, and it actually has some dimension. It's a post-it note holder, so it stands up and will sit on a desk and hold post-it notes. And the saying that I chose to put on the front is from the Rustic Retreat stamp set, which is out of our annual catalog. And I actually got this stamp set as a gift from my upline, Angie Judah, who does the Chicks Paper Ink blog and website. And she sent this to me allowed me to pick out the stamp set for attending the Upstage event that, on-stage event that Stampin' Up! Had back in November. So she's very supportive of us and our stamping endeavors. So I picked out this stamp set. I mean, I love the artwork, but I also loved this saying, and I've got 2 kids, and especially for my daughter, I want her to really take this to heart as she's getting ready to go off to college in another year. But it says, "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know." And that's a statement by A.A. Milne. So a little bit of trivia. If anybody can post in the comments who A.A. Milne is, you will get one of our projects. I will get it to you either through the mail or special delivery. So if you can tell me who A.A. Milne is and what he's known for. This is the example that I made, and I'm going to do it in a different color, just so you can see how changing up the colors can really change the look of something. This is out of Calypso Coral and Daffodil Delight, and those are, the Calypso Coral especially is my sister's favorite color. So anything I make with those colors, I know she will love to have. And I added a little bit of bling with some of our pearls, but I'm going to do the actual example that I make tonight in Mary Mallow and Basic Gray, which are 2 of our neutral card families. And I did go ahead and post all the measurements in the discussion part of the event, so those are there. If you want to go back and refer to them, they'll also be all over my blog and other places as I get going. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we've got all of our card pieces cut, and I just wanted to show you how easy it is to cut cardstock using the paper trimmer. So our base piece we need to be 11 by 3.5 inches. So this is one of our 8.5 by 11 pieces. So the long side I know is 11 inches. I've already cut a little bit off of this, so it's not the 8.5, but this measures 11. So then I'm going to just line up my cardstock to my 3.5. So this is 3, come down to the 1/2 inch. And it's got the grid lines all the way across, so you can make sure your paper's straight. You want to make sure you secure it tight against the bumpers on this side. And our paper trimmer is designed so it will cut the 12 by 12. I'm going to go ahead and drop the flap down, which helps secures it. I'm going to hold my paper in place and just run my cutting blade along the whole length. And our paper trimmer has both a cutting blade and a scoring blade, and both store so that you can keep both on there and still cut or score a full 12-inch piece of paper. So you can handily score and cut both times. So now I've got my base cardstock, which is 3.5 3.5 inches by 11 inches. And just to show you, I'm going to score one on this and then show you another nifty tool. So we need to score it at 2 3/4. So I'm going to take 2 inches and bring that down to 3/4. And then same thing with the scoring blade. Just take it and run it across. And hopefully you can see that score line. Now, this is great if you're just scoring one thing, but if you're making a lot of things that need to be scored, we have this great Simply scoring tool. And why I like this is it has these little indicators. You can pick them up and they pop in and out. 2 3/4. So if I'm making lots of projects, this is a great way because I don't have to individually measure it. I just throw it in, and I know that, you know, once I get my markers put at the right spot, I can just score, and it's got grooves in it, and I just use my scoring tool and run it right down the grooves. This gives you a little deeper of a score than the paper trimmer, but they both work great. So depending on what your need is, there's a couple of great options. So now we've got our 11 by 3.5 inch piece of paper. I scored it at 2 3/4 and 5.5, and then we're going to want to fold. And I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to fold this piece so that it folds down, and this is going to give us the easel portion of our card. And even though I scored it, I'm just going to really give that a good crease so that it'll really stand up nicely once we get it all put together. So there's that. Now, I already pre-cut our other pieces. So we need another piece that is 3.5 by 4 3/4. And that's going to sit and make the flap that actually stands up and holds our design. I mean, if you wanted to, you could do make it 5.5, but you don't have to. And I kind of like the proportions once we get it stood up at the 4 3/4. So you just have a little bit of the top edge that shows when it's folded down. So that's the base. I'm going to put together my card flap, and then we'll adhere it at the end. So the next piece that we're using is a piece of, and this is part of the DSP paper that's in the celebration, that's an exclusive to those that join as a demonstrator during celebration. But if you're interested in this, let's chat. If you like this paper, let's chat. Don't just say I don't want to be a demonstrator, so and think this is out of reach. But this is at 4 1/4 and 3 inches, and then I have another piece that's going to layer on top that is 3.5 and 2 3/4. Before I start gluing all this down, I'm going to tie my bow, and I pre-cut 14 inches of basic gray ribbon. This basic gray is retired, but there's lots of ribbon options, and if you don't have the ribbon color that you want, a great way to color ribbon, we've got just some basic white ribbon, or whisper white ribbon, if it's however you want to call it. You can take one of the Stampin' Blends, alcohol-based markers, and color your ribbon. And it will give you a nice, accurate color and work just as well. So just because you don't have ribbon the color you want, if you've got a Stampin' Blends marker and white ribbon, you can make ribbon that color. So I'm just going to tie a bow, and I'm going to tie it to the edge because I want it on the side. And give me just a second. I have to think when I tie. It's hard for me to talk and tie at the same time and get the look that I want. So I'm gonna just make sure I like both of my bows to be equal in length. I like it to be nice and tight, and that's got it. Now I'm just going to trim off the edge, the end of the ribbon, and I will tell you, if you use a lot of ribbon, you want scissors that are just for your ribbon, because if you use your regular paper snips and you've used them on a lot of paper, they chew through the ribbon. So I have scissors that are dedicated for ribbon and non-paper things. So I've got the ribbon on there. Going to grab my Stampin' Seal. Just give it a good texture. If you don't like the front, all of the DSP from Stampin' Up! Is two-sided, so it has one design on one side, one design on the other. I just like the plaid, so that's what I chose to use, but this is another neat design on the back. Here we go. And I thought that might happen. So I ran out. So they come with easy refills. It's just as quick and simple as that. Now, I want my ribbon to be level. Make sure we're nice and straight, and then I'm going to put some adhesive on that so it won't wiggle. And I'm just going to center this on the base layer, and I cut this so that we're going to have about 1/4 of an inch of a border around each side. And there we go. So then the next thing I want to do is I kind of build my layers in segments. So this is my bottom kind of layer, and then I want to get my sentiment layer put together. And so I've got my stamp mounted on. I'm going to stamp it in the Mary Merlot. You could stamp it in the basic gray, because I'm going to stamp it on Whisper White so it really pops. Just going to ink this up, put it on here. There's my stamp. Now I'm cutting it out with my decorative label punch. This is a retired one, unfortunately, but there are lots of options out there for that would give you a similar look. There's a rectangular postage stamp punch, scallop tag topper, there's an everyday label punch, label me lovely punch, and then another tag topper. It's called the delightful tag topper. Gives you a little bit different tops, but any of those punches would give you the same and fit this sentiment and give you the similar look to the project. I just don't happen to have any of those. I have this one. And we just place our paper in there, squeeze, and out it comes. Get rid of the scrap. I'm going to close my ink up before I ink something I don't mean to. I like my fingers. So that's got the ink closed up. I don't want to ink something inadvertently. Okay, so I am going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals and get all of this put together with dimensionals. And I've talked about on other videos, I don't like wasting. And the Stampin' Dimensionals come all punched out on a sheet, but then the edge is all solid. And I always cut my edge into different pieces. Kind of, I don't know, it just kind of lends itself to easy divisions when you look at the way it's punched. And so that's why I'm using and why they don't look like regular, what are these? So six-sided, what is that? Hexagon. So the other thing that I'm doing, we'll see, is I'm making this one with square corners where I did the other one and made that, I rounded the corners using a punch, and this one I'm leaving square just to show you the different looks that are out there. And I want to give one to my son, one to my daughter, and I think the square corners fit my son a little better, where the rounded ones are more feminine, but it doesn't have to be. Everybody has their preferences. My daughter loves to steal her daddy's clothes, so I don't know. It's all preferences, let's say that. This one's a little less frilly, let's call it that. So I went ahead, I'm doing dimensionals on this layer as well. I just want to really make things pop. And I'm just going to tuck it in here, try to center it top and bottom, but if you get it a little closer to the top, that's fine, because the Post-it note pad's going to kind of take up some of the bottom space. So there's the base, or not the base, the front of our Post-it note holder. And now, because this is going to be taking a little bit of pressure as we put the easel up, and I don't want it to separate from the base, I'm going to use our tear and tape and put that on. And this is so easy. It's a little bit stronger of an adhesive than the Stampin' Seal, but it's also great because it's two-sided tape with a back on the front side, so, or a paper on the front side, so we can just tear it off and put it on here, and we can really see where we've got adhesive. And then I'm just going to peel the paper off. So when you're making 3D projects and it's going to take some pressure, this is really the great adhesive to use because it stands up to it. It's a little bit more sticky. So now I'm going to line up the base of my card, my front, with the base of, so I'm lining up my bottom edges as close as I can, and then line it up left and right. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but there we go. So that's got that, and you can see how we've got the flap back there. And then really the last step is I'm going to take my Post-it note These have adhesive on them. This pad just happens to. Oh, so we're going to just use that, but we're going to put it on here. And again, I'm kind of trying to get equal border around the two sides and the base. I'm not measuring, I'm just guesstimating. If somebody wants to get out their ruler and measure me on a project that I make and give to them, so be it. I'm not perfect. But that's how quick and easy it is to make the project. And just to give you a comparison, so here's Mary Merlot with basic gray and whisper white. And then this one is Calypso Coral with Daffodil Delight Designer Series paper. Here's one that I did a while back, and don't ask me the colors of the paper right now. One of them, I think this one, the DSP is a tempting turquoise, and this might be Melon Mambo. I did not get out my other cardstock and compare, but just gives you some different looks. I mean, in this, in these two, the two end ones, the ribbon matches the Designer Series paper. In the middle one, the ribbon matches the cardstock. So it was just the colors that I had and wanted to emphasize. And this one I blinged up a little more. These I didn't. This is a die cut. These were punched. So, if you don't have exactly what I showed, don't let that stop you. Find what you have and make it your own. So nobody answered my little trivia question tonight, but I do want to give the answer. So A.A. Milne, who is responsible for the "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know" quote, is the writer that first wrote the Winnie the Pooh books. So the recent, there was a movie, Christopher Robin, that was based on A.A. Milne and his relationship with his son, who was the original Christopher Robin. So just a little bit of trivia and give you a little context behind that saying. So thank you for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll try making a 3D project of your own. I'd love to see what you do, so share them back to this post. But otherwise, have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your week.